Hmm. I wasn't able to think of much in the shower.
We've talked to all three suspects, purely based on their conversations with me.
None of them sounded particularly suspicious.
I suppose that's to be expected, though. If a single conversation's all that's needed to find them out, then my father wouldn't have needed to investigate the case for so many years. Anyway, even though we didn't make a breakthrough, let's still compile what we were able to find.
But where should we start? Ah, you're right! Flora mentioned that Callus probably only ended up with the gun because of circumstance.
According to Jacques' family members, he already told them that he had been discovered, and that he had no choice before he left home that day. If I had to guess, he probably received an order from the synth boss to kill my father. Had he refused, he and his family's lives would have been forfeit.
So, Jacques fired the first shot?
Oh? And why is that?
Ooh, that's a good point. Jacques probably already knew that he was just being used as a tool for murder. And once he had completed his mission, he'd be of no more use to his boss.
So, what would make more sense from his perspective would be to turn his back on the order and seek protection from my father. Makes sense. But without evidence, that's still just a theory. Besides, Jacques, the attack from the Gardamex has been bothering me quite a bit as well. It's obvious that our enemy has become more antsy after the secret of the primordial seawater was revealed.
Do you think he knew, even then, that we'd follow this lead to the end?
Given everything that's happened since, it's quite possible. But who among the three suspects would have the ability to control privately owned Gardamex? Uncle Marcel? My father did really trust him. And they worked together on a large number of projects. Maybe that's how he got to know Jacques.
I think it could very easily be Marcel. I just don't think it's the guard dude. And if I'm wrong, that's fine. This is purely conjecture.
And with funds from the Confrérie, he could also afford a large number of Gardamex. Still really hard for me to imagine, though. After all, Uncle Marcel has been around since I was just a child. Also, wouldn't this mean he has been spending a whole lot of mora and energy to fight his own synth business? Florent? It is true that he was closest to my father, and thus had the best chance of learning about his dealings with Jacques. But as Spina di Rosula's advisor, his work mostly deals with personnel and security, so he shouldn't have much means when it comes to finances.
So you're saying he's too broke to afford a mecha army?
Exactly. He can't. And even if he could, I don't think he would be able to
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. He's too little money and
Thierry, you say? Huh. But I didn't feel like he was lying when he was talking to us about the mecha. I also don't think he'd be able to keep that kind of tampering under wraps.
Yeah. Had he actually tampered with the mecha, we'd be able to prove it with a simple check of the guard's inventory. If the mecha were taken from the guards, it should be pretty easy to find out when and how that happened.
Who could it be?
well, okay. I genuinely think it might be Marcel. I just don't think it's Thierry. Florent also feels like the evil type just with his design. But so does Marcel. And so does Thierry. They all look like the evil type. They all look like the... He looks like the mischievous mystery villain. He is the guy hiding in plain sight. I'm just gonna select.
You know, if you think everything through, Uncle Marcel is indeed the most suspicious of them all.
Could we be missing other suspects? Marlouse didn't know about the people turning into water thing when he narrowed it down to these three, did he?
Malus always been very reliable, and his judgment of others' trustworthiness has been fair and well considered. When he laid out his case for the three, the rationale he gave me made a lot of sense as well. The suspect is knowledgeable about the Spina's internal affairs, has the means to dispatch Mecha to assassinate us, and possesses significant intellect and foresight.
You know what, the way he was able to do that kind of reminds me of something. I can't remember what it was, but it was something, like knowing, like there was some set of people, some group that was making sure that their stuff wasn't getting, or they could figure out who was leaking their stuff. So they made very specific versions of each type of email, and so they ended up finding who it was by making each person have a personalized email. Okay, I thought someone knocked on my door. I keep hearing sounds. I think someone's knocking on my door. This is the problem with having really good hearing, is that you think everything's near you.
Even if I don't want to believe it, I'm starting to see how things could all tie back to Uncle Marcel.
Well, we still have another trump card on top of all the theorizing and speculating.
Yes, Malus did say that charging straight in there would be extremely risky. But we don't have any other options right now. We need far more solid proof before we can hope to go charging in on our enemy.
Navia, here you are. Oh, I've been looking for you.
Huh? Aren't you the guy from...
Yeah. News came from Irenaeus just after you left. We've got another trial on our hands.
Wasn't that place built specifically for holding trial?
I know. But they said the person they're putting on trial is a Fatui harbinger called Tartaglia.
Child?
What?
Yeah,
Well, he's been accused of being the true culprit behind the serial disappearances case.
Wait, how? None of our...
That's what I thought was strange about it. So if the charge against him stands, then it'll be next to impossible to get the guards to support any of our planned investigations.
Right. Because they'll think they've already found the culprit.
Yeah. And it'll be a lot harder then to clear Mr. Callus's name.
I understand. Huh? Split up? What do you mean? Just as expected of my partner. Since this is a trial about the serial disappearances case, the culprit's attention will be focused on Irenaeus, leaving his home base wide open. You're right. This is our best opportunity. All right then, let's do this. I'll stall them at the Opera House and charge Marcel as the true culprit. I won't have any chance of making that charge stick, though, unless we find more evidence. It'll be up...
We'll help you.
Demoiselle, please allow us to accompany you.
I'm ready.
Ah, Malus, Silver, when did...
We heard that you'll be leaving Poisson and figured that you might require our assistance. It's our hope that your confidence will be bolstered with the two of us by your side.
Thank you so much. Then, let's make haste for Irenaeus. Paimon, Traveler,
See you then.
Combining the information regarding the Gardamex and the investigation results so far, you conclude that there is only one person who can have a large number of Gardamex in this position and run the synth business without leaving traces. This person none other than Marcel. So I was right to be most suspicious of him.
Now that Navia has set out for Irenaeus, we should also get going. The location has already been marked on the map, so let's have...
Because we still have this as well. I was like, he's being put on trial, and meanwhile we still have his vision.
Huh. According to Malus's info, the synth production base is underwater. Let's go and try to find the entrance.
I'm still recording, right? I just need to make sure. Okay. I'm always worried. I also need to constantly check because I need to make sure it doesn't go over too much time, because then the file itself is too big to transfer over. Oh, of course, it's got the classic air being sucked in.
Found it. Huh. So this is the entrance that leads to the synth production base. It sure doesn't... You're right. Navia's probably arguing up a storm right now to stall for a...
It would appear that I must repeat my question again. Do you accept the charge that you are the true culprit behind the serial disappearances case?
To be perfectly honest, I don't understand your country's complicated court system, or the reason why I'm being charged with something I've never even heard of. However, I did hear that people who have been charged can choose to participate in a duel to clear their name. Is that right? In which case, as long as I accept the charge, I can have an all-out fight with that champion duelist Clorend, right? I've got to admit, that's one of the most enticing offers I've ever received. When I privately sparred with her last time, she was obviously holding back. Real disappointing.
Oh, even without your vision, dude. Oh, it's really cool because we are literally standing there with his swimming with his vision in our pockets.
Hey, don't you understand? You're currently the prime suspect for a major case. This isn't the place for you to be looking for fights.
Oh? Sounds like the Hydro Archon wants to lecture me on the ways of the Opera House. Then why don't you duel me too? I'm the kind of student that learns best in the heat of battle.
He loves fighting. I love this man. He is definitely my Genshin husbando, by far.
No. That's not what I meant.
Alas, it would appear that communication with the defendant is going poorly. We have made very little progress. In that case, let me explain everything from the very beginning again. The goal of this trial is to determine the culprit behind the serial disappearances case.
That case had nothing to do with—
Huh? What's going on? Why is she interjecting again?
I told you it couldn't be one of the Fatui Harbingers.
Miss Navia, this is the second time you've interrupted the court proceedings. I only tolerated your behavior, but that was an exception rather than standard court protocol. I can very well charge you with contempt of court for your interjections.
Oh, please. Did you ever think I had any We can put that discussion aside for now. I'm not here to argue with you. I'm here to charge the true culprit behind the serial disappearances case. And if my charges prove true, then Tartaglia here will be proven innocent by default. Correct?
It is Tartaglia, no? Because every time I've heard people explain that his name is Tartaglia, it just made sense to me. Like, is it Tartaglia or Tartaglia?
Oh, a young lady has charged in and offered to clear my name. How fascinating. Well, I'd gotten half bored to death by all these rules and procedures anyway. So I'll take you up on that offer. So, Your Honor, is there nothing else for me to do now?
You may take a seat for now in the audience, but that doesn't mean the suspicions against you have been lifted. Now then, Miss Navia.
That person is—
Oh, so I actually get to control her now. Okay.
Marcel, the head of Confrérie of Cabrières.
Huh? What confrérie? Never heard of them in my life.
I've heard of them, but weren't they Spina di Rosula's sister organization?
Oh, is this going to be a friends to enemies type situation?
Oh, God.
Please let me remind you, Miss Navia, that charging someone is an incredibly serious matter. Committing to the charge also means taking on the legal responsibilities associated with it. And if the charge fails, depending on the circumstances, you may also be charged with the crime of making a false accusation.
Yes.
In that case, I declare the charge to be valid. Miss Navia and attorneys, please take your places on the court. Members of the guards, please contact Mr. Marcel right away so that he may stand trial.
Ooh.
Mr. Marcel, you will not require an attorney.
Apologies. It all just happened so quickly. I still haven't figured out what's going on. I think an attorney won't be necessary. This is
Very well. In that case, since both sides have now arrived...
I would like to take everyone back to 3 years ago, to the case of Callus the Unfaithful. Only through elucidating what really happened in that case can we connect all the dots for the serial disappearances case.
Navia. Do you really think that I was the one who killed your father? Come on. Why would I do that? Callus was my benefactor, and remember both you and I only ran to the scene when we heard the sound of a gun. If that's enough to make me a suspect, wouldn't that—
I think there's no point in getting into the specifics right now. The
Exactly correct, Your Honor. I must refresh everyone's memory about that case before I can explain my charge and reasoning.
I see. In which case, I will recount the findings about that case as originally recorded by Maison Gardiennage.
Oh,
On the
Nouvelette's
day of
actually
the
there.
murder, Spina di Rosula hosted a large banquet in a countryside estate owned by the Confrérie of Cabrières. During the banquet, all attending guests heard 2 gunshots from the courtyard. When the guests arrived at the scene, they found the primary suspect, Callus, holding a gun, while his acquaintance, Jacques, lay dead from a gunshot wound. The guards' investigation did not recover any other firearms from the scene. As a result, they concluded that the suspect's first shot must have missed, while the second must have taken Jacques' life. The suspect did not dispute this conclusion, and also declined to defend himself in court. Instead, he chose to prove his innocence through a duel. Callus was defeated by champion duelist Clarande in the ensuing duel, and soon succumbed to the injuries. These are the known facts about the case.
The one with the motive to kill was Jacques, not my father. In truth, the third person shot Jacques first, and was shot in turn by my father when my father seized the gun from him. After that, the true culprit turned the third person into water, erasing all traces of him from the scene. Thank you for the summary, Your Honor. Of course, the guard's conclusion appeared quite sensible to us at the time. However, we should revisit the case now that we've gained new information about the abilities of water from the primordial sea. The testimony of the victim's family confirms that Jacques had thoughts of assassinating Callus when he set out for the banquet. However, in the end, he reconsidered, and instead shared everything with Callus, hoping to seek the latter's protection.
Okay, so does this. Nope, I'm just dumb.
This assassin first shot Jacques, then turned to shoot Callus, only for Callus to wrestle the gun from him and kill him instead. A pile of clothing was found at the scene. The guards once believed they were used by Jacques as a costume to disguise himself. But now, it is clear that the clothes were proof that there was a third person at the scene, and that they were turned into water after committing the murder.
Oh.
Realizing this, the true culprit caused the hired assassin to dissolve into water, leading everyone to believe Callus was responsible for Jacques' murder. This is the true version of events.
Cool.
So that's what happened. Wait, you're telling me something as dangerous as water from the primordial sea has been used for all these years?
What a great theory. It also explains Callus's and Jacques' respective motives. I guess they didn't shoot each other after all.
Mr. Marcel, you are the one being charged with the crime.
Ah, but I think I agree with everything Navia just said. In fact, there was nothing in her speech that directly implicated me.
Then, may I ask some questions? 1. Do you have the evidence to back up your claims?
I'm a... I may not have the evidence with me, but I know where I could go to collect it. If we look up the deserted clothes against a record of people who went missing around the same time, we should be able to find a match. Considering the serial disappearances case, the guards probably kept careful records of all missing persons from around that time.
That makes sense to me. Monsieur Neuville...
do I feel like for...
Maybe she's scared of
Alternatively, she's become more diligent after charging an innocent citizen.
My second question has to do with the ensuing duel. Then why didn't Mr. Callis explain himself in court? If he had...
I've thought about this too, and the answer is actually pretty simple. He felt there were things that were more important to him. The dissolving power of water from the primordial sea is an important secret for the true culprit of the serial disappearances case. My father could have exposed it for all to see, but he chose to take it to the grave. At that time, Spina di Rosula was in dire straits, and his reputation had already been shattered. He had no guarantee that going forward with the truth would allow the culprit to be brought to justice. What was certain, however, was that it would paint a gigantic target on my back.
Boss once told me that Demoiselle had already been selected as the next target of the serial disappearances case.
What?
If the secret had gotten out, the culprit would have fought an all-out war with Espina right there and then. I wouldn't have been the only one in danger. All of us would have stood to lose our lives. Of course, the guards might eventually figure out the truth of the matter and determine that we were in the right, but what good would that do? How can a hollow verdict protect anyone? Had this opera house ever given my father any kind of confidence in its brand of justice, Spina di Rosula would have had no reason to exist. But by staying silent, we retained the ability to deter our opponents and continue the stalemate. I was able to become Spina di Rosula's president, which made me harder to target, as well as giving me more time to grow and learn. And once I have figured out the truth, and stepped up to the challenge, I will do what this opera house cannot, and restore my father's truth and honor back to him.
So, you mean to say, your father intended to die in the duelist's ring?
That's right.
Do you have any proof?
Of course, all you need is to ask his opponent. I don't need your apology, your guilt, or your support from the shadows. But since he entrusted his will to you, Clarand, you should tell us the truth about his sacrifice.
So, during the duel, did you believe that Callis was intending to die?
Yes, I did. As a champion duelist, I've fought many battles and taken a countless number of dishonored lives in my line of work. I've seen all kinds of people give their all for the faintest hope to continue living. Some were determined, others passionate, and some even manic and twisted. Just one look and I can tell if a duelist is hoping to live or if they're looking to die. I hereby swear on my name and honor as a champion duelist that Mr. Callis never intended to leave the ring alive.
Since that's your testimony, I have no more questions. It appears there really are good grounds to reopen this case.
I concur. However, Miss Navia, you still have not explained the link between your father's case and the serial disappearances case.
Right? What she said was fascinating.
Wait, weren't they just talking about the
Of course, Your Honor. The two cases are connected via a matter of timing. In my father's case, the culprit intended to kill both Jacques and Callis. As a result, they planned to act after hearing 2 gunshots. And at the end of Linny's trial, the culprit also only dissolved the victim in front of everyone because they realized they were at risk of being identified. The culprit could only time their actions so precisely if they were already at the scene. Coincidentally, Marcel attended both the banquet and the trial.
So that's why you suspected me. I'm used to it, though. You've always been an impulsive and sentimental child, Navia.
No need to appeal to pathos.
I won't try to refute your points one by one, but even if everything you just said was true, can you on top of that, does a person have to be physically present to control the timing? Can't someone remotely monitor the place?
Know what she can say to that.
I know that even with that, you might still think you can reduce the list of suspects with some further investigation. Alas, who won't feel at least a little hurt by an accusation of murder from a girl you see as your own daughter? But if I were to dismiss this completely, you'd also think I'm not being considerate of your feelings. Do you know what the biggest flaw in your reasoning is?
I suppose you're gonna tell me anyways.
It's timing. I'm a businessman by trade. From that standpoint, there's no reason for me to kidnap young women. It's a high-risk action with nothing to gain. In addition, I left my home in Snezhnaya when I was young to come to Poisson and work in some trade. My business only thrived when I received Callus's patronage. But the disappearances began before I ever stepped foot in Fontaine.
I do apologize, demoiselle. This was my mistake.
No, it's not your fault.
Is there anything else you'd like to say? Would you like to check the date of my first business license against the first... You can also take a look at my border entry records, or ask my friends and family when I left Snezhnaya for the first time. Could those records and testimonies do something to appease the unspeakable anguish in your heart?
Seems like she got the wrong. At this rate, Navia will be convicted for falsely accusing him.
I think you've done a superb job of dissecting your father's feelings, but aren't you going against all of his wishes? He wished for you to become more rational, collected, and conscientious, instead of dwelling once you've learned to be more considerate of others' feelings, and to stop rushing headlong into things. You'd have met most of his expectations.
I'm just sitting here waiting for the traveler to bust through the door, be like, "Sorry, bitch. I got some things for you to see."
This isn't just about me. The biggest difference between me and the rest of the victims is that I still have the ability to search for the truth. While that same agency has long been taken from them, the people whose families were destroyed by synth abuse, the people who lost their loved ones to the serial disappearances, and the people who suffered many people's images are flashing before my eyes. I'm sure some are coming to those of you in the audience as well. And whose image do you see, Marcel? Is it a man named Vacher?
Huh.
Oh, so you do know that name.
I'm merely surprised you'd suddenly say the name of someone I've never even heard of.
I was waiting for you to say that.
Ooh. Ooh. Vacher. So he knows who Vacher is. Ooh. Ooh. I was waiting for that name to come up. Party setup. No. I'm good.
We need to go up, but Paimon doesn't see a way. Let's take a look around. Maybe we'll find a hidden mechanism that'll show us the way up.
Oh, I have completely forgot I can go underwater. There you are. I'm dumb. Ah, that's cool.
The water level is rising. Now we can swim to the top. But this is still a ways away from where we need to go.
Oh yeah, I'm definitely doing far more damage with this weapon. Ooh, baby. Yeah, this weapon does far more damage than Amos bow. Well, I don't know the percentage of damage increase. I'll wait for that to show up on Kuching mains. Oh, my head. Actually, I should have a bunch of drinks here. Let me grab one of these. Actually, how much time is spent?